Chiefs Broncos AFC West title is on the line this week on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
And welcome back to another episode of Locked On Chiefs, your daily podcast covering the Kansas City Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen of the day. We really do appreciate it. Go listen to another show. Go check out maybe Locked On NFL. Maybe you go check out the Locked On Broncos this week with Cody Rourke. He does a great job over there. So much to talk about when we start getting into this game and how this is going to work out. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. And thank you so much. We do want to thank you because you have made the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in the country. Thank you. That is a big thank you to all of you everydayers out there and everybody else that listens. We really do truly appreciate it. We've been doing this for 9 years. This is my partner, Ryan Tracy from NFL 33, RJR Football, and much, much more. I'm Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. And man, 9 years. And to think the Chiefs have won the division the entire time that we have been covering this team.
We're like a giant rabbit's foot, right?
Yeah, kind of seems that way. So
I'm just saying.
Coming up, we're going to be talking about how the Chiefs can, the X factors in this game, our predictions for who's going to win it. Must win matchups will be in the next segment. We're going to start talking about the title and the legacy. As I kind of alluded to a little bit, this is the Chiefs going for their 10th straight division title. That is crazy. And I will never forget going back a couple of years when Alex Smith was the starting quarterback and recording a podcast, you, me, and Seth, and it breaks that they trade for Patrick, or not that they trade for Patrick Mahomes, but they traded Alex Smith to start Patrick Mahomes the next year, and everything that's happened since. It's been a crazy ride.
That was a fun night, live on air when the
live
franchise
on air, and we had to stop and just start over.
Yep.
Is what it is. That's what you do when we're dealing with this kind of stuff. But it's fun to talk about. We're looking at the Chiefs' legacy, how things have been built over the past 10 years. And you look at how this game is going to play out. There's a lot of injuries on both teams. There's some new injuries for the Chiefs that we need to talk about. But when you start looking at the AFC West title, and people may argue that this game doesn't determine the title. I would argue it does. If the Chiefs lose this game, they have no chance at the AFC West, in my opinion. Period. They're 3 games back from the Broncos.
There's a mathematical one, right? Yeah. There's always a mathematical one. It would take 2 teams collapsing, including the one that we're about to talk about, as well as the Chargers. And that's crazy stuff has happened before, so I can't say it'll never happen. But you're right. For all intents and purposes, if they don't pick up this game, and the next AFC West game, and the next AFC West game, and the last AFC West game, that title's on the line. And it has been so long that it takes me back to before we started this show, back when I was writing. Sorry for all of you that had to read that stuff and my grammatical errors, as well as my original first podcast where it was just me solo. Those are back in the days of watching Todd Haley and his grimace on the sidelines for this team. And oh God, how far that we have come to get to this point. We're talking about a decade of division titles for this. It's crazy to think that that's how far that we've come. And honestly, it's also a little crazy to think that we're talking about us teetering on the edge here when they're a team right now that has 4 losses. That is not indicative of a team that could be out of it, right? It is just as rare that there are teams above them with only 2 losses at this point in the season as we go into week 11 as the Chiefs having 4.
The craziest thing about all this, Kansas City is a Super Bowl favorite right now, and they're not even in the playoffs.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's the crazy thing. They're literally not in the playoffs. If it ended today, they would not be in the playoffs, yet they're the Super Bowl favorite according to some betting odds out there. And that's crazy enough to think about. But you look at how this game is going to play out. You look at how things have gotten here. And while Kansas City was kind of riding a hot streak for a while, their offense was looking a lot better. The defense started playing better. Then they hit the Buffalo Bills, and I don't know what to make of that game because there were so many things that Well, I know it's the Bills, but
I
there's
know
just so many things.
You're going.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
I will call it this, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I knew exactly where you're going. They were the Super Bills that played the Chiefs, not the regular Bills. The regular Bills played Miami, got their butts kicked last week. The Super Bills came out, and that's who beat the Chiefs. I don't know that they see them again.
I would actually argue that it's not that it wasn't the normal Bills that played the Dolphins. I would say it's the Super Bowl Bills that played the Chiefs. And then it's the Bills team that always plays the week after they play the Chiefs to play the Dolphins, because they always have a huge letdown the week after, it seems. So because they spend all their energy, they do everything almost perfectly the week before to get a victory, and it seems to eat at them. You look at what this game, though, is going to be for the Denver Broncos. They have 10 days rest, but they lost J.K. Dobbins. We don't expect him to play in this game. That's a huge loss for them. But they only beat the Raiders by 3 points. We're talking a team that Kansas City just absolutely demolished, and they can only put up 10 points. That is not going to lead to success against this Chiefs team, because I don't care how good your defense is. This offense is probably putting up at least 21 points, and we'll get to our predictions a little bit later on.
Yes, we will. Anemic is the best way to put where this Broncos offense is. And honestly, that's been a theme through a lot of this decade that we're talking about. And the legacy of the Chiefs for this decade is going to be knocking Peyton Manning into oblivion. Welcome to your second career, Mr. Manning. That worked out pretty well for them. And now, even though they've gone through a change for certain, an evolution, and I do like Bo Nix, he's not growing in the second year. He may become somebody that we feel is formidable in a season or two. Who knows? But right now, he and Sean Payton are not mixing on a level that has got them churning out more than 10 points against one of the worst teams in the league that the Chiefs blanked by 30. That's significant. And I think if they get off on this roll and they do what I think they're going to do in this game, this is also going to lead into and be part of the legacy that this AFC title run has contained.
I will say this, not as a Bo Nix apologist, because I definitely think that you would be that more so than me, but the Broncos haven't really helped him. They've continued to build a strong defense and continue to invest on defense, but they haven't given him weapons that you would expect to give a young quarterback and try to have him be successful. Yes, Dobbins was a great signing, but the problem with Dobbins is he always gets injured, and that is what has happened now. But you don't have the receiving weapons around Bo Nix that you would wish that they would have with him.
Yeah, I agree. And they got to do something to make those matchups win and take that away so that they can settle back down and be themselves.
Yep. And when we get back, we're going to be talking about the must-win matchups that are in this game on both the Chiefs side and the Broncos side right after this.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right gets you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump into the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play out there. Just pick more or less on at least two players and their stats, what you think, get them right, and you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup. You can play anywhere Prize Pick operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. It keeps every game exciting, and you can get it all during both football and NBA tip-offs and get right there with that stacks feature. It's a new game changer, and it gives you threes, points, touchdowns, etc. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. You're going to get $50 in lineups after you pay for your first $5 lineup. That code again is LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
Matchups are going to be the key in this game, and there are a couple of huge matchups that are going to be playing a key factor into who is going to end up with the victory on Sunday between the Broncos and the Chiefs. Ryan, I will let you go first.
I know this is going to surprise everyone, but
you're going to go
first
offense.
Matchup. No. Well, kind of. It's Patrick Mahomes against Talanoa Hufanga. This is the X factor for me that is a must-win matchup. Some of the X's are a little bit more far-fetched, right? But this is a kid, Hufanga out of USC, that I liked coming out as well. And he is the style And it's not just the hair that reminds you of Troy Polamalu. It's the way that he moves around, and he's all over the formation as well. And I do think that is, for this Broncos team, who is without Singleton due to his cancer diagnosis, somebody that they like to move around and kind of make the focal point. I think Hufanga is going to be the guy that they try to move around and take advantage of some of the things they've seen from Patrick in the past. 2 of the interceptions that we've seen have been not necessarily coffeehouse blitzes, but showing one deception and moving somewhere else. And this kid Hufanga is the guy that I think is probably the focal point for the Broncos' ability to do that. So for me, it's about controlling him with your eyes if you're Patrick Mahomes, understanding where he is at all times, because he's the guy who's hiding, is going to jump out from behind somebody else and wreak some havoc. So that's matchup number 1 that they have to win.
Yeah, it's big, and it's going to be really interesting to see if they can win that matchup. For me, I will stick on the offensive side of the ball for the Chiefs as well, and I'm going to say Josh Simmons and Jawan Taylor against the Denver Broncos DNs, and I'm not going to go one for one. I'm going to just say any of the DNs that line up for the Broncos, because they have several that can get after the quarterback and that can cause some issues, and this is a huge one. If you want to win this game, you have to keep Patrick Mahomes upright. You have to keep him in a situation where he's not getting pressured in less than 2 seconds. If you can do that, I do think that you can win against this Broncos defense. They're good, but they don't have their best player in Patrick Surtain. That's just reality. You have some things that you can attack against the Broncos, and they have Riley Moss, who I do think that the Chiefs are going to try to take advantage of, because he is somebody that likes to get really grabby. And if he does that against this Chiefs team, I do think that's going to be an issue. And really quick, even though this isn't specifically about this matchup, because it does apply, when you start looking at Kansas City and their injuries, Pacheco's probably out, not practicing. We know that.
Right.
But the one that got added today, Xavier Worthy with an ankle, I would expect he plays. Same with George Karlaftis, who has a thumb, and both have been limited. I would expect both of them play, but something to watch.
Yeah, limited don't scare me. I agree with you. I expect them both to play. Josh Simmons has been a full participant in both major practices so far this week. Matt Derrick's been talking about how using pads a little bit more, getting after it. And I think that's a good sign coming back off of the bye. But it is not the same situation on the other side of the ball. As you mentioned, as we've mentioned, both Patrick Surtain as well as Alex Singleton likely out. Neither participated in anything this week, as has Nate Atkins and J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins is the guy that makes that run game go. If he's not there, the next matchup that you have to win is the interior defensive lineman, even without Colin Saunders, have to dominate R.J. Harvey in the run game, because he's most likely, in my opinion, to be the feature back, because I think Sean Payton really likes him, and I like him as well. I thought he was a guy that could fit in the Chiefs backfield had they been able to secure him as well. So got to double down on that. He is a rookie. So you got to go after him. You got to set the tone early. And I do believe that if they're in base defense personnel, that matchup that they have to win comes down a little bit to not just the D tackles, but to Leo Chenal in particular.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see how that turns out. The other one, and injury, we're talking about injuries. Jonah Ellis, another linebacker for the Broncos, didn't practice 2 days in a row, didn't practice. They could be without 2 of their linebackers, without Patrick Surtain. This defense is hurting right now. So this is the time to take advantage. And when I look at this, it's a question of how do you go and you beat this Broncos team? And I'm going to look at the offense and say, okay, what are you going to do, Rashee Rice? You missed 6 games to start the season. You are missing their best corner in Surtain, and you have a golden opportunity to put a stamp on a primetime game that you are a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. I do think that he has the talent to be a top 5 wide receiver. Is he going to show it? Is he going to step out and be a guy that can just absolutely take over a ball game? Because the Chiefs need it this week. They need to get on a roll and win out the rest of the season.
Yeah, it certainly has to start here. The tone has to be set. If they do what I expect them to do and take this first game against the Broncos, I guess I gave away my prediction. You'll hear it here in a little bit, folks. It sets them up for that role, and it sets the tone not just for them, but for the Chargers and the Raiders as well as the Indianapolis Colts, who we're watching with a keen eye as well. So while this is matchups they have to win in this game, it's also a matchup against the Broncos that they have to win to set the tone for the rest of their regular season run.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I'm going to be curious to see how that turns out. The other one that I'm really going to be curious about is how does this Chiefs running game attack this Denver Broncos defense? And is it going to be a situation where they can get things going and they can be effective? Because one of the things that you are dealing with across the offensive line, you've got Trey Smith, Jawan Taylor, Josh Simmons, all on the injury report. And obviously we know about Simmons. Who knows? It looks like he'll be fine. Maybe he's going to start. Maybe he won't. We won't know until the game at this point. But if he goes, he's been out for a week. Out for a month. He's going to be a little bit rusty, I would think. So that's going to play into it. To me, this is a situation where not having Isaiah Pacheco is going to hurt a little bit more than normal, because I think that as much as I love the passing attack and love passing the ball, I think that they need to run, and they need to establish the run early and establish the will to run early and go after this Denver Broncos defense and wear them out, because I do think that that's one of the ways that they can win this game.
Is this one of those movies where somebody snaps their fingers and all of a sudden we switch bodies? You sound like me.
Yeah, no, it's not. Okay. We're not playing that.
Okay. Well,
I agree completely, it, but no, that's not what this is. This isn't Freaky Friday.
Okay, gotcha.
It is Friday.
It is Friday.
But it's not Freaky Friday. It's a Red Friday.
I agree with you, and I couldn't have said it better myself, so cheers. But here's the other thing that the run game will do, and I'll just tack on to this because this is probably where I would have gone as well, is you have to be multiple, and you have to get to the outside. I know that we understand the edges are some of their strengths here, but you have to develop plays, and you have to insert plays. They're already in the playbook if they're going to do it, so you can attack the outside. And this is the reason why. Because without Pat Surtain, without Alex, you have to force the rest of that secondary and linebacker group to come up and run support. You have to be able to wear them down. The game plan has to be about the game flow, and that has to include making non-defensive linemen make tackles against running backs in this game if you're the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, and the other thing, I will flip it over to the other side, and I'll say the same thing a little bit to an extent for the Broncos. You have to establish the run if you're the Broncos. And that's going to be hard without Dobbins. But if you want to beat this Chiefs defense, you have to be able to be multidimensional, and it can't just be on all Bo Nix's shoulders. That is going to be a big problem if Bo Nix has to go out and win this game for the Broncos by himself without any kind of rushing attack. That is going to be a severe problem. Chris Jones has to have a big day. The defensive line has to have a good day against this Broncos rushing attack. And yeah, without Dobbins, it's going to be a little bit less than what it would be, but you still have to make sure that you take care of that side of the ball, make sure that you slow the running game down, because if you make this a one-dimensional offense, this offense isn't going to be able to put up the points to beat this Chiefs team. And I guess I just jumped ahead and gave my prediction as well, but
hey,
there we go.
Well, we're going to give you the X factors, even though we gave away the predictions. We're going to do them for real coming up right after this. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by your fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets is a hassle. Between queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. And that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time makes it fast, easy, and they're backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included. So the price you see is the price that you pay. I pull up Game Time, and just a couple of taps, I can see amazing deals. Find my section that I really like in the corner of the end zone. And I'm talking about all of the Chiefs games, the NFL games that you're looking for, some as low as $100. You got to get on that action. And this is how you do it. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, the promo code is LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
X factors and predictions for this game. Denver Broncos hosting the Kansas City Chiefs in Denver. This is going to be a fantastic game. I agree with Cody and what he said yesterday. I cannot believe that this game did not get flexed. I think it should have been the Sunday night game. Is what it is. Although I will say, I don't miss the fact that we're not going to be up till midnight trying to get a show out and talking to people. But
I agree. A good friend of mine, it's his birthday, so I'm going to go have a steak dinner as soon as we're done with ours anyway. So I appreciate that as well. And when it comes to X factors, there's two that stand out to me. The first one might not seem like it, but as you were saying, getting pass rush is paramount. And I need the top George Karlaftis to show up against these Broncos. That is imperative. As you mentioned, Chris Jones, not quite as much production as he normally is. And we've talked a lot this week, including with Cody, about the production that the Denver defensive line has with 3 guys above 38 pressures apiece. Well, the one guy in Kansas City that does that is George Karlaftis. And he happens to be matched up for the most part against the worst pass blocker on the Broncos offensive line in Mike McGlinchey, who's given up 25 pressures so far this season, all by his lonesome. So this has to be prime George, where, no offense to Chris, this is his job to eat blocks and take away those double teams to him so that George can eat. And that's really what it comes down to me for getting after Bo, get in his face and adjust where his feet and where his arm angles can be. And I think that's a successful day for the Chiefs.
My X factor, I'm going to go with another X, Xavier Worthy. I know he's limited. I know that people are questioning whether or not he's going to play. I don't think that there's any chance that he doesn't play in this game. Obviously, travel, who knows? You would hope that it doesn't become that. But I think that he is a guy that is going to that can completely change what this Chiefs offense is able to do. Yes, you have Rashee Rice, who I think is a bona fide number 1 wide receiver and easily a top 10 talent. You can make an argument for higher than that. But when you look at what Xavier Worthy brings to this team, it's not just his speed. It's his ability to do routes and get open in different parts of the field. People want to say he's just a speed wide receiver. He is not just a speed wide receiver. He has changed his game this season because he's had to because of the injury. And I think you and I both agree we're fine with that because he needs to be on the field. He makes this Chiefs offense so much more potent, regardless of whether or not he's at 100%. He can still do things that are going to be very valuable to this organization and to this team on the football field without having to, be a guy that can dive for a ball or stretch out and try to catch a deep ball over the wrong shoulder. I mean, yeah, it'd be great that he could do that, but I would much rather him protect himself and make it through the rest of the season with the injury that he's dealing with. And I do think he could be a huge X factor against this Broncos team.
Well, I am going to dovetail right on to you because Xavier will be part of what exposes this X factor in a bad way for the Denver Broncos. And that is that I think leadership in Denver got a little bit too cute. I said this on draft day, and I still believe it, that they brought Jahdae Barron in here to try and combat Xavier Worthy. And what has he proven to this point? Unfortunately, that he is the worst coverage corner in the stable in Denver. Even so much so that a lot of folks are focusing on Chris Abrams-Drain, who's going to stand in for Patrick Surtain. He's played less snaps than Barron, but Barron has not fared as well in coverage. His reception percentage is not that bad. It's at 55.5. But it's the fact that he's giving up 13 yards per reception on top of that. And right now, 2 Texas players, 2 Longhorns going at it. I give Xavier Worthy, even with a tweaked ankle, the advantage here. And I think they have to feast on him no matter who's aligned in that slot, which most likely is going to be Xavier on him most of the day. Attack Barron, and good things will happen.
I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball for my other X factor. And generally speaking, you would think I would say the most important corner on the field is going to be Trent McDuffie. To me, I think it's actually going to be Jalen Watson this week or Noel Williams, depending on it. And that's the thing. We don't know. The Chiefs decide who they want to be in different positions, and they will move their corners around. So it could be either Jalen Watson or Noel Williams, but whoever they decide that they want to match up against Cortland Sutton on a regular basis, because I do think that they're going to not necessarily keep McDuffie away from him, but I don't expect that they're going to have McDuffie travel with Sutton. And I definitely don't think that they're going to try to have McDuffie on Sutton on a regular basis, because it's not a great matchup for McDuffie. He is a fantastic corner, but Sutton's size and leaping ability kind of negates a lot of what McDuffie does very well. So to me, Jalen Watson or Noel Williams matching up against Cortland Sutton and being able to just contain him, it doesn't have to be shut him down. Just contain him, keep him from getting, I don't care if he gets a touchdown. I mean, yeah, obviously you want to stop it, but they're going to score points. That's just the reality. Kansas City's not going to pitch a shutout against Denver. That's not generally going to happen. This defense has played great, but that's just not the way the NFL is. There's too much parity right now. So to me, if you can keep it from Sutton from going off for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns, because he's just absolutely owning the defensive backfield, this is an X factor that Kansas City has the ability to win. Jalen Watson and Noel Williams have been playing well enough that I think that I'm not going to say it's an advantage for Kansas City, but I don't feel like that's a huge matchup disadvantage for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. And when I look back at what happened with the Bills, they're right about the same number of coverage snaps, back and forth, 31 versus 27. And I do think that it gives Spags a little bit of a mix and match ability that I think they should absolutely use on Cortland Sutton. Although I do expect Sutton to make a play. In the end,
right?
I think the Broncos have a tendency to put up more against the Chiefs than they do other teams. But together, with the defensive injuries and the way that this offense is not running in Denver, and the fact that the Chiefs are coming off of rest, I don't see it as much of a question. I think there may be a push late by the Denver Broncos, but in the end, I don't think they can keep up. I think the Chiefs win 27-20.
Yeah, I could see a push late. The question I'm going to have is what Denver offense is going to show up on Sunday. The one thing I will say, and you kind of talked about this when you talked about the Bills always play the Chiefs really hard, and it's their Super Bowl every year. We've talked about it all season. The Chiefs are going to get the best shot of just about every single team that they're going to play. Raiders are their own little deal, but maybe that was their best shot. But they're going to get the best shot of the Broncos. I mean, I don't expect that the Chiefs are going to, keep this Broncos team to probably less than 14, 17, 20 points. But I do think Kansas City is going to score enough points. I think their offense is going to be showing new things that they've not necessarily waited for after the bye, maybe put in over the bye week. Maybe they came up with a couple of different things, a new couple of wrinkles for this offense. But I do think that Andy Reid is going to have this team, Patrick Mahomes is going to have this team focused and ready to go. And I do think that they're going to put up at least 28 points. So I'm going to go 28-20 Kansas City. Still probably going to be a one-score game. The one thing that really worries you about this game specifically is all it takes is one mistake at the wrong time, and it could cost you. So Kansas City has to take care of the ball, and if they do that, I think that they win this game, and this is going to be the start of something. I will also say it would not shock me. It would surprise me a little bit, but it would not shock me if Kansas City made this a statement game.
I would love to see that. I kind of called it very similar to this the last time they played the Raiders, and look what happened there. So let's hope that the streak continues.
That is going to be it for us today. Thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate it. Again, we are the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day, and we are the #1 podcast network in the nation. Thank you all for listening today, and we will talk to you tomorrow.